All right. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. This is your afternoon tropical update. We have potential tropical cyclone 19 on deck. Our area of interest down here near Jamaica has been intensifying and organizing through the afternoon. It's not quite a tropical system just yet. The Hurricane Center went for the PTC label to put out some watches and warnings for the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras. But the system is pretty healthy, and it's got a nice little low-level center to it, as we see here on Tropical Tidbits satellite imagery. The rotation is basically a little broad on the surface, I think is why they're holding this just a little bit. But this will become Tropical Storm Sara tonight or early tomorrow, and it will be moving slowly off to the west for the next day or so before slowing down near the coast of Central America. So let's go and take a look at the National Hurricane Center's latest advisory. This is the first one as of 4 p.m., moving to the west at 6 miles per hour. And his maximum sustained winds, again, 30 miles per hour, almost for tropical storm status, but not quite organized just enough yet. That rotation tightens up a little bit, and it'll go ahead and get its full name. So what we're seeing from the first forecasts is actually pretty interesting. The trends today in the models have generally been for a more westward system that interacts more with land. So yesterday we talked about this broad scenario of, does this sit offshore of Nicaragua and Honduras, or does it kind of sit more onshore or kind of halfway onshore? And then when it begins to move northward on Monday, does it take more of a northerly track towards the tip of Cuba and the Yucatan Channel, or does it kind of crash into Belize and the Yucatan and then try to turn northward from there? And the answer to that has seemingly been from the models that more westerly today than yesterday. So it's not set in stone. We'll go through the solutions and we'll go through the scenarios. But basically what we're looking at is the next day or so, the next couple of days is the distance that this thing winds up from Honduras, and how much it interacts with the land masses here will greatly depend on what kind of storm moves northward Monday into Tuesday, which therefore then will greatly impact what winds up getting to Florida on Wednesday. We've got two competing things here. In the short term, we have a very favorable environment for intensification outside of the land. If Honduras and Nicaragua got like bulldozed tomorrow, this thing would have a pristine prime environment to blow up and intensify with the water temperatures, the warm, the outflow channels, the air, everything is pretty much aligned for this thing to really go off. The problem is it's probably going to put on the brakes a little too late and wind up drifting very close to land. So the short-term micromanage will be, does it wind up sitting way over here and forms up and blows up over here? Or does it sit kind of half on land and struggle to develop because it's so close to land? Or is it something in between? Then as it comes northward Monday into Tuesday, what track does it take? Does it clip Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula? Does it crash into Belize and have to travel through land for 18, 20 hours? And what winds up moving into the Gulf of Mexico on Tuesday, Wednesday? And then at that time, the third and final piece of the puzzle here is how strong and how fast is the cold front coming in from the west to boot this back to the east across Florida, and what is sitting there when that front shows up. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few things. This is over on Weather Nerds, showing you the ensemble data. This is showing you a range of possibilities, and we're looking at the ensembles because this is a really good tool for something like this where we have multiple scenarios in play. So GFS from earlier today was showing a solution where more models had it offshore than onshore. This resulted in a much stronger storm. The oranges and pinks you see are typically going to be representative of a higher end tropical storm or a hurricane, whereas the blues and greens would represent a much lower storm in terms of intensity. And you can see here pretty clearly the ones that stay closer to land are all pretty much weak, and the ones that go further offshore are all much stronger. And we can see that bifurcation there pretty clearly. And again, notice how these lines, where they pop out, the ones that pop out over here, because Nicaragua's and Honduras's coast goes like this. So the ones that are over here look much stronger than the ones that wind up very close to the land. And that interaction, again, very important for the final outcome. The Weather Nerds Euro data shows us something a little bit different. The Euro shows the storm more uniformly moving into land. We can see that the ones that clip the Yucatan are stronger. Again, our oranges and some of our reds that don't spend much time over land, because again, it's not just, oh, it touched land, it weakened, yay. It's got to actually be over land for some period of time for it to really matter. So again, if your storm starts well offshore and is able to become, say, a category 1 or 2 hurricane, and then it clips the edge of the Yucatan Peninsula for 2 or 3 hours, it runs over Cozumel and is back offshore in 3 hours, that's not going to weaken it all that much. But say the storm winds up drifting much further west, hits Belize, and has to grind through the Yucatan for the next 12, 14, 16 hours, and it's over land this entire time. that's going to dramatically weaken the storm, much more than a passing clip of land. So you can see here again, the ones that go over a significant portion of the Yucatan generally are much weaker going into the Gulf than the ones that don't spend much time over land. But Euro is still showing a range of possibilities, and the Euro is showing more northward possibilities. This is because the Euro is being a little bit slower with the front coming in. So let's talk about some of the other factors here besides the land interaction. One of the things is high pressure over Florida. So I want you to keep in mind how this looks right here. Okay, this is a GFS forecast from a day or so ago, showing a weaker high pressure kind of anchored over Florida and kind of this banana, kind of half moon shape looking thing going on here. See this line? This is 588. That's what I want you to focus on as we go forward in time. So we're looking at the same time in the future, Monday afternoon, but each subsequent run closer to today's model run. So as we go through the model runs of the GFS over the last 2 or 3 days, notice how much more expansive that high is. It was shaped like this. Now it's shaped more like this. And if we go through 2 or 3 more runs, we go to closer to today, it's now pretty much encompassing most of the Southeast Gulf of Mexico and Cuba and some of Western, Jamaica and whatnot. And it's pushed our storm all the way into the Central American area. It's moved it from what was over here, and it's shunted it all the way over to the land. Okay, that's a trend we've been seeing with the GFS, and that is corrected back towards what the Euro has already been showing us. So the Euro is kind of getting some late season points here, but being a little bit more accurate with the last storm or two, probably because with the more westerly, time of year with the wind patterns and changing into the fall season, the Euro might handle these larger scale events a little more than the GFS does. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But the GFS has corrected the Euro solution and shows that there's a very narrow gap for this storm to be able to shoot northward without running into land. And that window is starting to close a little bit more with each subsequent model run. The other thing is the timing of the front. So this is the GFS, and this is the kind of the other hang up here. So we have a cold front that passes through today and tomorrow and moves to the southeast this weekend. Okay, this is not the front that's going to pick our storm up. The front that's going to pick our storm up is coming next week. So we have a weekend where it's dry, cool, nice in the southeast, nice football weather, whatever. And then next week, this big behemoth shows up, this big, powerful storm system that's going to bring blizzard conditions in some of the central U.S. and going to bring really cold temperatures and going to be a big, true November honking, strong cold front storm system, okay? This is going to pick up whatever Sara is or isn't by this point in the Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday. This is going to pick Sara up and throw it across Florida and get it up out of here. Okay. But the question, of course, is, well, what winds up in the Gulf? Is it a weak tropical storm? Is it a fully fledged hurricane? Is it something in between? That's the $1 million question. And the other problem we have is that the timing of these storm systems are different between our models. The GFS has a much faster cold front coming in with the storm. The cold front would roughly be on the surface. I'm using a 500 millibar chart, but the cold front would be somewhere like where I drew it here, and it would probably pick up whatever's left and already move it out to sea pretty quickly. Euro shows a bit different solution. The Euro shows, for the same time, Wednesday afternoon, shows a more like complex system where we have the front actually way back here in Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky kind of area, and whatever's out ahead of it may have more room to move northward, where the GFS shows a stronger storm forcing whatever's left way over South Florida. The Euro shows this little more of a window that something could come further north, although if it's over land, it'll be much weaker, and you may not even know it's a tropical system. So there's kind of like, besides the land interaction problem, we have the timing of the big front to come get this. So I'm just kind of showing a range of options here. And what it kind of comes down to is that today it looks more likely that our system is going to spend more time near land or overland. And the critical point in the next 24 to 72 hours is, does this wind up sitting on the coast of Honduras, offshore of Honduras? Is it sit further north, further south, where in between? And then as it moves northward, what kind of track does it take? Does it stay near the edge of the Yucatan? Does it drive right into the Yucatan? I think in the next 24 to 36 hours, our models will probably be able to resolve this a little bit better. And if the trends continue, it looks good for us. Looks bad for Central America. I mean, the rainfall forecasts are pretty bad. We're looking at over 20 inches of rain for parts of the coast of Honduras. That sucks a lot. And this is going to be a catastrophic flooding event if that that winds up verifying. But the point for the U.S. is the impacts remain to be seen. If I was in South Florida, I would still be expecting a good storm later on in the week. But just review your plan and keep watching the forecast. It's too early to know exactly what's coming. If you're further north, if you're in like Tampa or Jacksonville or Big Bend or something, if something does wind up coming further north, it'll probably be much weaker. There's a lot more wind shear over the Gulf right now, and it may just wind up enhancing the cold front with more rain and more thunderstorms. It may not even be a tropical entity by then. This is a very, very powerful late, fall kind of cold front and storm. So, or even a hurricane is going to have a hard time standing up to this. So, but it's too early to call. We're just going to keep watching it and see how it goes. So, Hurricane Center's first forecast is out. We'll have more in the next couple of days. And we'll be back tomorrow with the latest on what's going on. We'll have Hurricane Hunter data tomorrow. We'll have a lot more to throw at it. So, until then, guys, just stay tight, hang tight, and we'll figure it out as it comes along. So, until then, thanks for watching and have a good one.